My family made me their twin visible son for 18 years, while everything revolved around my sister Emma. On our 18th birthday, Mom planned a huge party with Emma's 18, neon signs, and rose gold everything, so I lied about a camping trip and left. At midnight, I got a voicemail from my birth mother. Your adoptive mother lost her baby at 7 months and only wanted Emma from the adoption agency, but you came as a package deal. You were just the price she had to pay to get her daughter. My family made me their twin visible son for 18 years, so I gave my sister the solo act she always wanted. Growing up, everything in our house revolved around Emma like she was the sun, and we were all just planets in her orbit. Mom had waited through 3 sons for a daughter, and when she finally announced she was getting twins, she painted the nursery pink before showing anyone proof. The story became family legend, told at every birthday with Mom laughing about how she knew Emma was in there and had to scramble for some blue paint when she realized she'd have to make room for me too. She still keeps the ultrasound photo on the fridge, girl, circled in pink marker with my barely visible outline labeled Baby B in pencil. Dad called Emma his princess from day one, scooping her up for elaborate princess hugs, while I got quick shoulder pats and the nickname Sport, like I was just another one of the boys passing through. My older brothers fell into the pattern immediately, protecting their only sister like she was made of glass. They taught her to throw punches, just in case, but made sure she never needed to use them because they scared away anyone who looked at her wrong. Meanwhile, they taught me that boys don't cry, boys don't complain, and boys definitely don't need what girls need. Family photos from those early years tell the whole story if you know where to look. Emma centered in a pristine dress Mom spent hours selecting, while I lurked on the edges wearing whatever hand-me-downs my brothers hadn't completely destroyed yet. The differences started small, but grew worse each year. Emma's first steps were filmed from 3 angles with Mom crying about her baby girl growing up. When I took mine 20 minutes later, I got a distracted "good job, buddy," because everyone was still reviewing Emma's video. Birthday parties became pink-themed productions, where my friends ate off plates covered in tiaras while we sang "Happy Birthday, Emma," even though it was my birthday too. School made everything worse because now there were report cards and achievements to compare. Emma's B+ in math meant ice cream celebrations and speeches about how math is harder for girls, so we're extra proud. When I brought home straight A's, Mom glanced at them while doing dishes and reminded me that boys are supposed to do well in school. The message was clear. Emma's mediocrity was worth more than my excellence because she was the one they'd waited for. By high school, I'd learned to stop hoping for things to change. Emma needed a bedroom makeover for her difficult teenage years, complete with fairy lights and a vanity mirror that cost more than my entire wardrobe. Meanwhile, I still shared a room with my second oldest brother who thought tormenting me was a sport, with only a thin curtain dividing our space for privacy. She got a car at 16 because it's more dangerous for girls to take the bus, and I got nothing except the free bus pass the school provided to low-income students, even though we weren't low-income, just selectively cheap when it came to me. Everything built toward our 18th birthday like a storm gathering strength. Mom started planning 6 months in advance, creating Pinterest boards and visiting venues. She showed Emma endless options for themes and color schemes, while I sat at the same table practically invisible. When I finally asked about having my friends there, she patted my hand absently and said, "Of course, honey, you can invite a couple people to Emma's party." That's when I knew this wasn't our birthday. It was Emma's. 3 weeks before the big day, I overheard Mom talking to the party planner while she thought I was at practice. "Just the one birthday girl," she said. "Her twin brother will be there, but we want to keep the focus on Emma since 18 is so special for girls." She went on about the rose gold color scheme, the 3-tier cake, the photo booth with custom neon signs reading Emma's 18 in cursive, not even pretending to include me anymore. I made my decision right there in the hallway. I texted my best friend asking about that camping trip he'd mentioned, and within hours, 6 guys were committed to spending my birthday weekend at the lake. I told my parents there was a mandatory team-building retreat for baseball that college scouts would attend. Mom barely glanced up from her party planning binder when I mentioned it. "That's fine, we'll save you some cake." The day arrived, and I felt nothing but relief flooding through my chest. While Emma got her hair professionally styled in the kitchen, surrounded by Mom's friends cooing over her, I threw camping gear into my friend's hit-up truck. While she posed for pre-party photos in a dress that cost more than my entire birthday had ever been worth, I was driving toward freedom with the windows down and music blasting. My phone started buzzing before we even reached the lake, but I turned it off and didn't look back. That night, sitting around a campfire with nowhere else I'd rather be, my friends sang Happy Birthday at midnight with no Instagram-worthy backdrops or champagne flutes in sight. When I finally turned my phone back on Sunday morning, the screen lit up with proof of the chaos I'd caused. 43 missed calls, but between Mom's angry texts was a voicemail from an unknown number, time-stamped 12:01 a.m. "Jake, this is your birth mother. We've been waiting 18 years to contact you legally. I know what they told you, but you deserve the truth. Your adoptive mother was pregnant with a girl, but lost her at 7 months. When she went to adopt, the agency said you and Emma came as a package deal, twins who couldn't be separated. She only wanted Emma. You were just the price she had to pay to get her daughter. I'm so sorry. Please call me back. I listened to the voicemail 3 more times in my tent while my friends slept around me, each replay making my hands shake harder. The woman's voice cracked when she mentioned the 7-month loss, and something deep in my chest recognized the pain as real. My adoptive mother's texts kept lighting up my screen between replays, shifting from rage about missing the party to frantic messages about where I was. The last one made my stomach turn. Where's my daughter's brother? The possessive emphasis on my told me everything, not where's my son or even where's Jake. I was just an extension of Emma, a necessary appendage that came with the package she actually wanted. As sunrise painted the lake orange, I tried calling the number back but got voicemail. My friends started stirring in their sleeping bags while I sat there staring at my phone, trying to process 18 years of feeling invisible suddenly making sense. When we finally packed up and headed back toward cell towers, Emma's texts flooded in. Mom had posted on Facebook about her missing son and was apparently performing grief for the neighbors. The word performing from Emma hit differently now. My best friend Nathan woke up fully and saw me hunched over my phone, face probably showing every emotion I was trying to process. He asked what was wrong, but how could I explain that my entire life was built on my mother not wanting me, that I was just collateral damage in her quest for a daughter? It sounded insane even in my head. Nathan assumed it was about missing the party and tried to comfort me about how Emma always got the attention. If only he knew how deep that pattern really went. We cut the camping trip short when I couldn't stop checking my phone. During the drive back, Emma called me directly, her voice shaking as she begged me to come home. Mom was spiraling and had started blaming Emma for me leaving, saying if Emma hadn't demanded such an elaborate party, I wouldn't have felt excluded. The manipulation was already starting, turning sister against brother. My phone's GPS showed me something that made my decision harder. The birth mother's address was only 20 minutes from our house. She'd been that close all along. I could drive there right now, get answers to questions I didn't even know I had. But Emma's crying on the phone pulled me home first. Whatever was happening between me and Mom, Emma didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. I arrived home to find cars already filling our driveway and street. Late party guests were apparently still arriving for the Sunday brunch portion of Emma's birthday weekend. Mom stood on our front porch in her party planning outfit, clutching tissues and telling anyone who would listen that I was having a mental health crisis and she was worried for my safety. 3 different crises exploded the moment I walked through the door. The late party guests wanted explanations for why the birthday boy had been missing. Emma was sobbing in the corner because her boyfriend had broken up with her at the party, saying he couldn't compete with how much attention she needed. And Dad was clutching his chest in the kitchen, face gray, while Mom fluttered between her audience on the porch and her actual family falling apart inside. I dropped my camping gear and went straight to Dad. His breathing was shallow and sweat beaded on his forehead. I called 911 while Mom stood frozen in the doorway, her performance for the guests forgotten as real crisis hit. I kept Dad calm, had him chew aspirin, and monitored his pulse while we waited for the ambulance. The EMT who arrived noted how calm and competent I was compared to Mom's hysteria. She kept wailing about how this was all too much, how she couldn't lose her husband after her son had abandoned them. The hospital waiting room became another stage for Mom's breakdown. She sobbed loudly about how much stress I'd put on the family, how Dad's heart couldn't take the strain of my rebellion. Other patients stared while she went on about never understanding why I would hurt Emma like this, how she'd tried so hard to include me. What she didn't notice was the teenager in the corner filming her on his phone, catching every word as she muttered about never wanting that boy between dramatic sobs. My oldest brother arrived at the hospital and immediately sided with Mom. He pulled me aside in the hallway, gripping my shoulder too hard while telling me I'd ruined Emma's special day and traumatized the entire family. According to him, I was selfish and attention-seeking, jealous of Emma getting one day that was supposed to be about her. The irony of calling her 18th birthday one day when it had been built up for 6 months wasn't lost on me. While the family focused on Dad's tests and treatment, I drove home alone to get the insurance cards Mom had forgotten in her panic. The house felt different now, knowing what I knew. I went to Dad's filing cabinet in the home office, searching for the insurance documents. That's when I found them, shoved behind old tax returns, adoption papers in a manila envelope with my name scrawled across it. Emma's papers were in a decorative folder with her baby footprints on the cover. The documents confirmed everything. Twin babies, adopted together with a clause stating they couldn't be separated. The dates lined up with what the birth mother had said. There were even notes from the adoption agency about maintaining sibling bonds and best interests of keeping twins together. I was photographing everything with my phone when Emma walked in. I expected anger, demands to know why I was going through Dad's files. Instead, she stood in the doorway, still in her party dress, but with mascara streaked down her cheeks. She looked at the papers spread across the desk, then at me, and said quietly, "I always wondered why she looked at you like that." The admission hit harder than any accusation would have. Emma had noticed. All these years of feeling invisible, thinking I was imagining things, and Emma had seen it too. Dude, that detail about the teenager filming her saying she never wanted that boy said sets up something that will probably matter later. Finding those adoption papers hidden away while Emma's are in a pretty folder shows us exactly how different the parents treated these twins from the start. She sat on the floor next to me, pulling her knees to her chest, and we went through the papers together. Neither of us spoke much, but her hand found mine when we reached a section about the adoption agency's policy on twin placements. Dad needed someone to handle the insurance forms because Mom couldn't deal with paperwork right now. The hospital administrator handed me a stack of documents, and as I filled them out, I noticed discrepancies. Some forms listed me as a dependent, others didn't. My name was spelled wrong on several, like an afterthought hastily added. Emma was consistently listed as the primary dependent, even though I was technically older by those 20 minutes. Mom started her campaign before we even left the hospital. She called her sister, her prayer group, 3 of my former teachers, spinning a story about my breakdown. According to her version, I'd always been fragile, just like when our grandfather died and I'd acted out by crying at the funeral. She was building a narrative. Unstable Jake, troubled Jake, Jake who needed help. The same boy who got straight A's and played varsity baseball was suddenly portrayed as a ticking time bomb. The family group chat became a battlefield. Mom would post concerned messages about my erratic behavior while I sat right there in the same hospital waiting room. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly chimed in with their own memories of times I'd seemed off or troubled. Most of these memories were completely fabricated or wildly exaggerated. The time I'd gotten upset at age 10 because Emma got a bike and I didn't became Jake's history of violent outbursts. Every time I tried to leave to process what I'd learned, another family emergency arose. Emma needed someone to drive her home. Dad needed his prescription picked up. The house needed to be cleaned for the relatives coming to check on us. Each task fell to me, while Mom continued her performance of the concerned mother, barely holding it together. I realized she was deliberately keeping me close, preventing me from seeking out my birth mother. The control became more explicit when Mom cornered me in the hospital parking lot. She held my car keys, having taken them from the kitchen counter while I was filling out forms. Her face was calm now, no trace of the hysteria from earlier. She informed me that since I was on her insurance, she could remove me at any time. My part-time job at the hardware store wouldn't cover my own policy. If I wanted to keep driving to school and work, I needed to stop this nonsense immediately. By the time we finally got home that evening, exhaustion weighed on me like a physical force. The extended family had gathered for an impromptu dinner to support us through Dad's health scare. I sat at the familiar table, looking at Mom across from me, and for the first time in my life, I couldn't call her Mom. When I asked her to pass the salt, her first name came out instead, Linda. The entire table went silent. Forks stopped moving. Everyone stared at me like I'd committed blasphemy. My middle brother broke the silence first, coughing awkwardly and changing the subject. Later, he pulled me aside in the garage. I could see the conflict in his eyes as he admitted he believed something was wrong, but couldn't let me stay with him. His wife was Mom's best friend's daughter. Their entire social circle revolved around our extended family. Taking my side would cost him his marriage. He hugged me, whispered, "I'm sorry," and went back inside to his pregnant wife. The next few days blurred together in a pattern of escalating control and public humiliation. Mom's prayer request at church about her troubled son spread through the congregation like wildfire. Neighbors who'd known me since childhood started treating me differently, crossing the street when they saw me coming. The youth pastor texted offering to talk if I needed help with addiction issues. When I asked what addiction, he said Mom had mentioned I was struggling with substances, which explained my erratic behavior. Mom's next move was genius in its simplicity. She produced a family calendar where the camping trip was never marked. According to her version, I'd been confused about the dates and had deliberately chosen to miss Emma's party out of spite. She told everyone about the camping trip being scheduled for the following weekend. The fact that 6 of my friends could verify the actual dates didn't matter because Mom had already convinced everyone I'd manipulated them too. Emma's best friend's mother approached Mom after church, offering to write Emma's college recommendation letter, but she mentioned needing Mom's help with the upcoming PTA presidency election. Mom agreed immediately, then looked at me with satisfaction. The message was clear: choose her side or watch Emma's future suffer. Every relationship, every connection in our small town ran through Mom's carefully maintained network. The financial control tightened when I tried to access my bank account. The teller, who'd known me since I opened the account at 14, informed me apologetically that it was actually a custodial account. Only Mom could authorize withdrawals from the college fund she'd been depositing my paychecks into. 3 years of part-time work, thousands of dollars I'd earned myself, locked away under her control. Mom reframed my early return from camping as further evidence of instability. A normal person would have stayed the full weekend, she told anyone who'd listen. Coming back early proved I was manic and couldn't follow through with plans. The fact that I'd come back because of her frantic messages was conveniently forgotten. In her version, I'd abandoned my friends just like I'd abandoned my family. The suggestion of family counseling came wrapped in false concern. Mom had already spoken to her therapist friend who specialized in troubled teens. This therapist, who'd never met me, apparently already had opinions about my attention-seeking behavior behaviors and jealousy issues regarding Emma. The first appointment was scheduled without my input. When I refused to go, Mom sighed dramatically and told everyone I was resistant to help, further proving how troubled I was. Mom started attending all my baseball practices, arriving early to chat with Coach Henderson about her concerns. She brought homemade cookies for the team, quoted my old texts about feeling stressed before games, and offered to help organize fundraising events. Coach Henderson, who'd always praised my dedication, began watching me differently. During practice, he pulled me aside to discuss my home situation and suggested I might benefit from taking a break to focus on my mental health. The manipulation extended to every corner of my life. Mom befriended the parents of my teammates, sharing her worries over coffee after practice. She twisted innocent memories into evidence of instability. The time I'd gotten frustrated during a losing streak became proof of my anger management issues. My dedication to extra batting practice transformed into obsessive behavior in her retelling. One afternoon, Mom and I discussed my missing Emma's party. She insisted I had threatened to ruin her birthday when I mentioned having a scheduling conflict. In her version, I'd been aggressive and vindictive. My actual words had been apologetic, explaining the camping trip was already planned, but Mom's certainty made me question my own memory. She spoke with such conviction that even I wondered if I'd been more hostile than I remembered. While searching for my birth certificate in the attic, I discovered my childhood diary hidden in a box of old school papers. Flipping through pages filled with 7-year-old handwriting, I found an entry that stopped my breath. Mom loves Emma more than me. In the margin, Mom had written therapist in red pen. She'd known how I felt even then and had considered it a problem to fix rather than a pattern to change. My 4-year-old cousin Lily spent an afternoon with Mom while her parents attended a wedding. When they returned, Lily ran to her mother and announced that Jake was sick. She explained that Aunt Linda said I had problems in my brain and everyone needed to be extra nice to me because I couldn't help being mean sometimes. Her innocent repetition of Mom's words showed how the narrative spread even to family members too young to question it. Nathan helped me access our doorbell camera footage from the night of Emma's party. The timestamp showed Mom on the front porch exactly 1 hour after I'd left, telling arriving guests that I had chosen to abandon my family. She dabbed at dry eyes while explaining how I'd always been jealous of Emma and couldn't stand her having one special night. The performance was flawless, complete with trembling voice and perfectly timed pauses for sympathy. Mom's next escalation arrived in the form of legal documents. She filed for an emergency custody evaluation, claiming I was an unstable influence on Emma. The paperwork described incidents that never happened, conversations twisted beyond recognition, and concerns about my deteriorating mental state. She wanted the court to determine if I should have supervised visits with my minor siblings and whether I posed a threat to Emma's well-being. I used Mom's Amazon account to check order history, searching for birthday presents over the years. The results confirmed what I'd always suspected. Emma's birthdays showed dozens of purchases: American Girl dolls, jewelry boxes, designer clothes, electronics. My birthdays were blank spaces with occasional last-minute additions. The search bar's autocomplete revealed Mom's most recent searches, including gift for Emma's real birthday, implying mine was something else entirely. Reading between the lines of Mom's social media history revealed years of groundwork. Posts about my difficulties appeared as far back as middle school. She'd shared articles about challenging children, and when one child needs more attention, comments from friends offered sympathy for her struggles with her difficult son while praising her devotion to both children. The public narrative had been carefully constructed long before I knew there was a story being told. The family therapist Mom chose specialized in troubled adolescents and had already formed opinions before our first session. Dr. Patricia Reeves asked about my resentment toward Emma and my attention-seeking behaviors. When I tried explaining about finding the adoption papers, she redirected the conversation to my feelings of jealousy and suggested I was creating fantasies to cope with normal sibling rivalry. The session wasn't therapy, it was an interrogation designed to confirm Mom's version of events. I attempted to record Mom's verbal abuse during a particularly harsh lecture about embarrassing the family. She spotted my phone immediately and switched personas like flipping a switch. Her harsh tone became concerned and gentle. She asked why I was recording her trying to help me, suggested this paranoia was another symptom of my issues, and wondered aloud if I was having delusions about persecution. The transformation was so complete, it made me doubt my own perception of the previous 5 minutes. School pickup from my youngest brother became another weapon in Mom's arsenal. She listed me as unauthorized at his elementary school, explaining to the administration that I was going through some personal issues and shouldn't have access to any of the children. The school secretary, who'd known me since I was in kindergarten, looked at me with pity when I arrived to grab him for his dentist appointment. Security escorted me out while my 8-year-old brother watched in confusion. Brew, the way that it shows how far back this pattern goes with that diary entry is really smart. Finding Mom Loves Emma More Than Me, written by a 7-year-old with Mom's note about therapy in the margin, tells us this isn't new behavior, but something that's been happening for over a decade. Dad's boss, a family friend who attended our church, suggested Dad take time off to deal with our family crisis. Mom had visited during lunch, tearfully explaining how my behavior was affecting everyone, especially Dad's health. She painted a picture of a family in chaos because of one troubled son. Dad couldn't afford to lose his job, but the pressure to handle me intensified. He started avoiding me at home, choosing peace over confrontation. I noticed disturbing changes in Mom's behavior toward Emma. She now slept in Emma's bed most nights to comfort her through this difficult time. She borrowed Emma's clothes, used her perfume, and styled her hair the same way. The boundaries between mother and daughter blurred as Mom seemed to absorb Emma's identity. Emma looked increasingly uncomfortable, but didn't know how to establish boundaries without triggering Mom's emotional manipulation. Mom made me an offer during a rare moment alone in the kitchen. She would forget this whole thing if I publicly apologized to Emma and admitted I was going through something. She wanted me to take responsibility for ruining the party, acknowledge my jealousy issues, and promise to get help. In exchange, she'd stop the custody evaluation and release some money from my college account. The offer came wrapped in concern, but the threat was clear. When I refused her deal, Mom twisted it into evidence of my instability. At the next family dinner, she tearfully told everyone how I wouldn't even apologize to my sister. She described offering to help me move forward, but I was too proud or too sick to accept help. The relatives shook their heads at my stubbornness. Emma sat silently, knowing the truth, but trapped between loyalty to me and fear of Mom's reaction. Investigating the party details revealed more lies. The venue contract showed a booking for 50 guests, not the 200 Mom claimed. The catering order was modest, the decorations simple. My absence hadn't ruined some grand production. It had given Mom a narrative to exploit. She'd turned a normal birthday party into a tragedy, with me cast as the villain who destroyed Emma's special day. Emma and I discovered Mom's memory box while searching for Christmas decorations in the basement. Inside were ultrasound photos, baby clothes, and hospital bracelets, all dated the same week as our adoption. Mom had been preparing for a daughter before she knew we existed. The pink nursery, the girl-focused planning, it all made sense. She'd lost her biological daughter and immediately sought a replacement. I was just an unwanted addition to her healing process. Mom's Facebook memories revealed years of posts celebrating Emma's achievements while ignoring mine. Emma's participation trophy in dance got a photo album and lengthy praise. My state championship in baseball wasn't mentioned. Emma's B+ report cards were proof of her hard work and determination. My straight A's and National Honor Society induction went unacknowledged. The digital history showed a clear pattern of selective attention and manufactured narratives. My grandmother faced an impossible choice when I asked to stay with her. She admitted she'd noticed the favoritism over the years, but felt powerless to intervene. However, taking me in would mean losing access to her other grandchildren. Mom had made it clear that supporting me meant choosing sides. Grandmother offered me meals and a sympathetic ear, but not shelter. She chose neutrality to maintain her weekly dinners with the whole family. I decided to use Mom's own tactics against her. During a meeting with the school counselor about my college applications, I expressed concern about Mom's emotional stability following Dad's hospitalization. I mentioned her sleeping in Emma's bed, her increasing anxiety, and her fixation on controlling the family narrative. The counselor took notes, promising to check in with Emma about the home situation. Mom had taught me that perception mattered more than truth. The coffee shop encounter was carefully orchestrated. I knew Mom's book club met there every Tuesday at 10. I arrived at 10:15, ordered my usual drink, and struck up a conversation with Mom's friend Catherine near the counter. When she asked about Emma's party, I casually mentioned how difficult it must be for Mom to process the adoption anniversary each year. Catherine's confusion was genuine as she asked about adoption, having always believed we were biological twins. I apologized for the misunderstanding and left Mom to explain. While Mom dealt with the book club fallout, I searched her email for correspondence with the adoption agency. Her password was Emma's birthday, predictable and telling. In her sent folder, I found years of communication with the agency, including recent requests for documentation. She'd had my birth mother's contact information all along, filed under Do Not Contact, with legal threats attached. The evidence of her deception was overwhelming. Mom's estranged brother Marcus appeared at our doorstep, having heard about the family drama through mutual relatives. He offered to mediate, presenting himself as a neutral party wanting to help, but his real interest became clear when he mentioned their parents' estate and unresolved inheritance issues. He saw an opportunity to leverage our family crisis for his own financial gain. Mom reluctantly let him in, knowing his presence complicated her control. The competing crises meant I missed my college scholarship interview. While managing Dad's medical appointments and defending myself against Mom's accusations, the date passed unnoticed. The email marking me as a no-show for the full ride opportunity arrived as I sat in another family therapy session. 4 years of academic excellence destroyed by 3 weeks of family chaos. Mom expressed sympathy that felt like satisfaction. I discovered my college savings account had been emptied when I tried to pay for SAT prep materials. The bank statement showed large withdrawals for family therapy and Emma's birthday expenses. expenses. $18,000 accumulated over 3 years of part-time work, gone. Mom justified it as necessary expenses caused by my behavior. She'd spent my future to pay for the crisis she'd created. The grocery store confrontation was Mom's most public performance yet. She found me stocking shelves at my part-time job and loudly worried about my mental health in front of co-workers and customers. She described my recent behavior, her fears for my future, and her desperation to get me help. My manager watched from the office as Mom created a scene that would be gossip for weeks. Professional reputation became another casualty of her campaign. Parents from my tutoring job started canceling sessions. Word had spread through Mom's prayer circle about my family problems and unstable behavior. One parent explicitly stated they couldn't take any risks with their children's safety. 3 years of building a reputation as a reliable tutor, destroyed by whispered concerns and prayer requests. Income I desperately needed vanished with each apologetic cancellation. My living situation became nomadic as Mom redecorated my room for Emma's anxiety. I couch surfed between friends' houses, wearing out welcomes and straining friendships. Each friend's parents eventually heard about my situation through the small-town gossip network. Invitations became reluctant, stays shorter, until I was rotating between Nathan's basement and my car. Mom told everyone I'd chosen to leave home rather than accept help. Dad's breaking point came during a particularly tense dinner. He looked exhausted, older than his years, and finally said what Mom had been pushing him toward. He asked me to just apologize so we could have peace. He called me son, but meant problem. He described how I was destroying my mother, tearing apart our family, causing health issues and financial strain. The man who'd taught me to stand up for myself now begged me to surrender. My investigation into the adoption caused unexpected collateral damage. Mr. Morrison, my AP history teacher who'd been helping me research, faced questions from administration about his inappropriate interest in a student's family situation. His 7-year-old daughter asked why Daddy was in trouble at work. His wife forbade further contact with me, creating tension in their marriage. He'd only wanted to help a student he believed in, and I'd brought chaos to his door. The weight of hurting innocent people who'd tried to help me was crushing. Mrs. Chen from the library, who'd helped me access adoption records. Coach Henderson, who'd written recommendation letters before Mom's interference. The school counselor who'd advocated for me. Each faced scrutiny or consequences for their association with the troubled kid. I continued pursuing the truth, but the cost in relationships and reputations mounted daily. Emma found me in Nathan's garage one evening, looking smaller than her 18 years. She asked a question that cut deep. What if Mom was right and I was just hurt about the party? What if this whole adoption story was my mind's way of explaining why I felt unloved? For a moment, I couldn't answer. The gaslighting had been so thorough, so consistent, that even I wondered if I was creating a conspiracy where only favoritism existed. I decided to take control of the narrative through social media. On Instagram, I posted a measured statement acknowledging that I'd felt neglected growing up, but maintaining that the adoption story was true. I didn't attack Mom or share private documents. Instead, I asked for space to process complicated family dynamics. The post was screenshot and shared, twisted and reinterpreted, becoming evidence of both my instability and my manipulation, depending on who shared it. My systematic search through Dad's filing cabinets revealed the smoking gun. 3 manila folders labeled "Legal Resolved" contained letters from my birth mother spanning years, all unopened, all filed away. Mom had received them, kept them, but never read them. The return addresses showed my birth mother had moved multiple times, always staying within driving distance. She'd been reaching out while Mom built walls of legal threats and silence. Mom's lawyer filed an emergency motion for a restraining order, claiming I was harassing the family and creating a hostile environment. The document sought to bar me from the house, limit my contact with minor siblings, and prevent me from accessing family documents. I had 72 hours to respond, 72 hours to find legal help with no money and a reputation in tatters. The system Mom had navigated for 18 years was now aimed at me. During a family meeting arranged by Marcus, Mom revealed a different perspective on our shared history. She described years of trying to bond with me, reaching out only to be rejected. In her telling, I'd always pulled away, reminded her of the daughter she'd lost, made her feel like a failure as a mother. Her pain seemed genuine, twisted with possessiveness over Emma and resentment of my existence. The truth was complicated. A grieving woman forced to raise an unwanted child who reflected her loss. Mom's sister Sarah became an unexpected pressure point. She'd struggled with addiction in her 20s, a secret Mom had shared with me during a rare moment of vulnerability. I'd promised never to tell anyone, but now, facing legal action and family exile, I had to choose between keeping secrets and survival. I told Sarah I might need to discuss family history in court, including her past. The threat was implicit: support Mom and risk exposure, or stay neutral. The Jake who'd kept family secrets, who'd protected others' feelings above his own needs, was dying. Strategic Jake emerged from necessity. I studied Mom's patterns, anticipated her moves, learned to document everything. The detail about the unopened letters from Jake's birth mother being filed under legal eventual resolved is particularly telling about how Mom has been controlling information all along. I took photos of documents before she could hide them, recorded conversations when legal, built my own narrative with evidence. Survival required becoming someone I didn't recognize, someone willing to cause pain to stop my own. One morning, Mom left her phone bill on the kitchen counter while getting mail. The detailed statement showed multiple calls to an adoption lawyer over the past month, predating my birthday party absence. She'd been preparing for this possibility, consulting legal counsel before I'd even found the voicemail. I photographed the bill quickly, adding it to my growing collection of evidence that her concern was performance, her crisis manufactured. Small victories felt hollow against larger losses. Proving Mom had lied about the party guest count didn't restore my reputation. Documenting her legal preparations didn't return my savings. Each piece of evidence I gathered came with a cost. Emma caught in the middle, Dad's health declining, brothers choosing sides. I watched Mom cry genuine tears over Emma's graduation photos, knowing we were destroying each other with neither willing to stop. Mom's counterclaim gained traction when my birth mother went silent. Her phone disconnected, emails bounced back, the address I'd found led to an empty apartment. Without her testimony, I had documents, but no witness. Mom painted me as delusional, creating an elaborate fantasy to explain normal family dynamics. The adoption papers could be misinterpreted, the birth mother a figment of my imagination, or someone taking advantage of a troubled young man. Everything hinged on Emma's willingness to testify about what she'd observed over the years. She held memories I couldn't access, conversations between our parents, moments when I wasn't present, the subtle ways Mom had revealed her true feelings. But asking Emma to choose between truth and family meant destroying her relationship with Mom. I needed her voice, but couldn't demand that sacrifice. My past tutoring job became unexpected leverage when Mom's friend mentioned needing help with her son's college essays. She'd recommended me for the original job, singing my praises to other parents. Now she approached me privately, suggesting we could work something out if I stopped hurting the woman who'd done so much for me. The web of obligations and favors that sustained our small town became visible, all leading back to Mom's careful cultivation. The church congregation split into factions. Some saw Mom's pain as a mother dealing with a difficult child. Others noticed patterns, how she spoke about me versus Emma, how her concern seemed performative, how my supposed troubles only emerged after I'd challenged her. Whispered conversations after service revealed long-held suspicions about our family dynamics, but sympathy didn't translate to support when taking sides meant social consequences. Meeting with a legal aid lawyer revealed the harsh reality of proving emotional abuse. Physical abuse left bruises and broken bones. Emotional abuse left doubts and damaged self-worth. The judge would need concrete evidence of deliberate harm, patterns of behavior that crossed from favoritism into abuse. Circumstantial evidence wasn't enough for emergency custody decisions. I needed documentation, witnesses, proof that Mom's treatment went beyond simple preference for Emma. Dad's military connections provided unexpected support. Retired Staff Sergeant Williams remembered me as a baby, brought to base events when Dad couldn't find childcare. He had photos from military family gatherings showing me alone with Dad while Mom and Emma stayed home. The pattern was clear even then, Dad bringing his son to work functions while Mom kept her daughter close. Williams offered to testify about what he'd observed, a neutral party with no stake in our current drama. The photos revealed another layer of truth. In images from those early months, Mom looked hollow-eyed and distant when holding me, while photos with Emma showed genuine joy. Post-adoption depression had clearly affected her ability to bond with me. The context explained but didn't excuse 18 years of treatment. Mental illness meeting unwanted obligation had created a perfect storm of rejection and resentment. The photos Williams provided became crucial evidence when my birth mother finally resurfaced. She'd gone silent after receiving another cease and desist letter from Mom's lawyer, but Williams tracked her down through his military network. She lived in a modest apartment complex just outside town, working nights at a medical billing company. When I finally met her in person, she handed me a thick folder documenting 18 years of attempted contact, each effort blocked by increasingly aggressive legal threats. The adoption agency worker who'd saved illegal copies contacted me through an encrypted messaging app. She'd kept records of Mom's complaints about my colic, including formal requests to dissolve my portion of the adoption just 3 months after bringing us home. The agency had refused, citing their twin placement policy, but Mom had pursued every possible avenue to return me while keeping Emma. The worker risked her career by preserving these documents after the agency ordered them destroyed. Mom's perjury became undeniable when I compared her sworn affidavit to the adoption records. She'd claimed under oath that she'd never attempted to separate us, that my delusions about being unwanted were fabricated. But the paper trail showed multiple consultations with lawyers about breaking the adoption contract, keeping Emma while returning me to state custody. Each document bore her signature, each consultation billed to her credit card. The family court mediator reviewed our case file with growing concern. She'd seen custody disputes and family conflicts conflicts, but the systematic documentation of emotional rejection spanning 18 years was unusual. She recommended immediate psychological evaluations for all parties, noting that mom's recent behavior suggested underlying mental health issues requiring professional intervention. The recommendation wasn't punitive, but protective for everyone involved. During my evaluation, the court-appointed psychologist asked about my goals. I explained I didn't want to destroy mom or break up the family. I needed acknowledgement of what happened, access to my birth mother without legal threats, and control over my own documents and finances. The psychologist noted my requests were reasonable and focused on autonomy rather than revenge. Mom's evaluation revealed severe unresolved grief from losing her biological daughter. The psychologist's report described how she'd transferred her maternal feelings entirely to Emma while viewing me as an unwanted reminder of her loss. Her recent behavior, sleeping in Emma's bed and wearing her clothes, suggested an escalating identity fusion requiring immediate therapeutic intervention. Emma's testimony proved unnecessary when mom broke down during her second evaluation session. Faced with the documented evidence of her attempts to return me, she admitted everything to the psychologist. She described feeling trapped with a colicky baby she'd never wanted, forced to raise a child who reminded her daily of what she'd lost. Her honesty was brutal, but necessary for any possibility of healing. The judge's preliminary ruling granted me immediate access to my birth mother and ordered mom to cease all interference. My bank accounts were unfrozen, my documents returned, and a restraining order prevented mom from contacting my birth mother or her family. Mom was ordered to begin intensive therapy, focusing on grief processing and attachment disorders. My birth mother shared her side of our story over coffee at a small diner. She'd been 17 when she had us, pressured by her parents to give us up for adoption. She'd chosen the agency specifically because they promised to keep us together. Learning that mom had tried to separate us devastated her. She'd spent 18 years believing we were loved and wanted by our adoptive family. The financial audit revealed mom had spent over $30,000 from my college fund on Emma's expenses over the years. Dance lessons, shopping trips, electronics, all documented as necessary expenses for Emma's development, while my earnings funded them. The judge ordered restitution, but acknowledged that recovering the full amount would take years. Dad's testimony surprised everyone. He admitted knowing about mom's attempts to return me, but choosing to stay silent to preserve family peace. He'd convinced himself that mom would eventually bond with me, that time would heal her grief. Instead, his passivity had enabled 18 years of emotional neglect. His voice broke as he apologized, recognizing his failure to protect me. My brother's reactions varied as the truth emerged. The oldest maintained mom was sick, not malicious, and deserved compassion. The middle brother admitted he'd suspected something was wrong, but felt powerless to intervene. The youngest, still in elementary school, just wanted to know why he couldn't see me at school pickup anymore. Emma struggled most with the revelations. She'd benefited from mom's favoritism without understanding its source. Learning that her privileges came at my expense created tremendous guilt. She started therapy to process her complicated feelings about mom, our relationship, and her own identity, separate from being mom's chosen daughter. The adoption agency faced investigation for their handling of mom's complaints. While they'd refused to separate us, they'd failed to provide adequate support or monitoring after mom's multiple attempts to return me. The worker who'd saved documents became a whistleblower, exposing systemic failures in post-adoption support services. Mom's therapy revealed the depth of her psychological struggles. Her therapist diagnosed complicated grief disorder and attachment trauma. The loss of her biological daughter had created a wound that adopting Emma had partially healed, while I became the unwanted reminder of her inability to carry a child to term. Treatment would take years. I moved in with my birth mother temporarily while figuring out next steps. Her apartment was small but welcoming, filled with photos she'd collected of us from social media over the years. She'd followed our lives from a distance, celebrating our achievements alone, unable to reach out until we turned 18. The community reactions split predictably. Some saw mom as a victim of mental illness deserving sympathy. Others recognized the pattern of emotional abuse I'd endured. Most fell somewhere between, uncomfortable with the messy reality of a mother who loved one child while rejecting another. My scholarship opportunities were gone, but the community college offered a path forward. I enrolled in general education courses while working full-time to rebuild my savings. The timeline for university had shifted, but not disappeared. My birth mother helped where she could, though her resources were limited. Nathan remained my strongest support through the transition. His family offered me a permanent room in their basement, charging minimal rent. His parents had witnessed enough of mom's behavior over the years to understand why I couldn't return home. They became the stable family base I needed while navigating legal proceedings. The restraining order created awkward divisions at family gatherings. Holidays split between households, with Emma shuttling between mom's house and wherever I was staying. Dad attempted to maintain relationships with everyone, but struggled with the logistics and emotional weight of a fractured family. Mom's progress in therapy was slow but genuine. Her therapist reported breakthrough moments where she acknowledged the harm she'd caused. I notice how the story reveals each family member's different response to the truth, from Dad admitting he stayed quiet to keep peace, to the brothers having such different reactions based on their ages. She wrote letters of apology that her therapist held, waiting for the time when contact might be appropriate. The letters remained unread, their existence both hopeful and painful. My birth mother introduced me to her side of the family gradually. I had grandparents who'd mourned our loss for 18 years, aunts and uncles who'd wondered about us, cousins who welcomed me warmly. Building these relationships while maintaining ties with Dad and Emma required careful balance. The legal proceedings concluded with a comprehensive agreement. Mom would continue therapy with progress reports to the court. I gained full control of my documents and finances. Contact between us would be limited to family therapy sessions when her therapist deemed appropriate. The agreement protected everyone while allowing for potential future healing. 6 months after that birthday weekend, I sat in my birth mother's living room surrounded by acceptance letters from state universities. My grades had suffered during the family crisis, but my essays about overcoming adversity resonated with admissions committees. Financial aid would cover most expenses, supplemented by my rebuilt savings from working double shifts. Emma visited weekly, our relationship slowly healing from the revelation trauma. She'd started setting boundaries with Mom, recognizing unhealthy patterns in their relationship. Her own therapy helped her understand that being the favored child came with its own psychological costs. Mom continued intensive therapy, working through decades of unprocessed grief. Her therapist remained cautiously optimistic about eventual family reconciliation, though everyone understood that would take years, not months. The woman who'd controlled every narrative now had to confront her own truth. Dad sold the family house, downsizing to a smaller place near his work. The symbolic fresh start helped him process his own guilt about enabling Mom's behavior. He attended his own therapy sessions, working to understand how his passivity had contributed to our family's dysfunction. I chose a university 3 hours away, far enough for independence, but close enough to maintain relationships with Emma, Dad, and my birth mother. The distance felt necessary for building my own identity outside the shadow of our family drama. My birth mother helped me move into the dorms, a moment 18 years in the making. The scars remained visible in small ways. I still flinched when someone called me by name, expecting conditions or manipulations to follow. Trust came slowly with new relationships, but each day brought small victories. A grade earned on my own merit, a friendship built without family interference, a future shaped by my choices rather than Mom's control. Emma and I developed new traditions separate from our fractured family. Monthly dinners at neutral restaurants, texts about daily life, shared jokes that didn't reference our complicated past. We were learning to be siblings without Mom's narrative defining our relationship. My birth mother never tried to replace Mom or erase the complicated history. She offered support while respecting the 18 years of life I'd lived without her. Our relationship grew organically, built on shared meals, homework help, and gradually learning each other's rhythms and preferences. The extended family gradually adjusted to our new reality. Some relatives maintained relationships with both Mom and me separately. Others chose sides. The family group chat dissolved, replaced by smaller, more intentional connections. Holidays became negotiations rather than obligations. 1 year later, I stood in my dorm room packing for summer break. My options included staying with my birth mother, visiting Dad's new place, or taking a summer job near campus. The freedom to choose felt foreign, but empowering. For the first time in my life, I had multiple places where I was genuinely wanted. Mom sent a letter through her therapist on my 19th birthday. I chose not to read it yet, filing it away for when I felt ready. Healing couldn't be rushed or forced. Some wounds needed time and distance before reconciliation became possible. My story spread through our small town in whispers and fragments, each retelling shaped by the teller's perspective. I stopped trying to control the narrative, focusing instead on building a life worth living. The truth existed in court documents and therapy notes for anyone who needed verification. Emma chose to attend community college locally, living with Dad while maintaining limited contact with Mom through structured therapy sessions. She'd decided her own healing required staying close to home while establishing independence. We supported each other's different approaches to moving forward. The financial restitution trickled in slowly as Mom sold assets to repay what she'd taken. I put each payment toward tuition, transforming stolen past into invested future. The money mattered less than the acknowledgement it represented. My birth mother's family embraced me fully, though integration took time. 18 years of missed birthdays and holidays couldn't be recovered, but new memories slowly filled the gaps. I gained not just a mother, but an entire extended family who'd waited to know me. Dad and I rebuilt our relationship without Mom's interference. We discovered shared interests beyond family drama, baseball games, hiking trips, quiet dinners where we talked about everything except the past. He became the father he'd always been, just more present without the constant family crisis. 2 years after that birthday revelation, I declared my major in social work. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, but my experiences gave me unique insight into family dysfunction and the systems meant to protect children. My professors noted my unusual maturity in understanding complex family dynamics. Mom achieved stability through continued therapy and medication for depression. Her letters through the therapist became more frequent, each showing greater insight into her actions. She joined a support group for mothers dealing with adoption trauma and grief, finding community in shared experiences. Emma and I compared notes on our different upbringings, finally able to laugh about some of the absurdities. The matching pink birthday parties, the gendered expectations, the obvious favoritism we'd both noticed but never discussed. Humor helped heal what anger couldn't touch. My relationship with my birth mother deepened beyond initial bonding. We fought sometimes, disagreed on things, had normal parent-child conflicts that felt healthy compared to the manipulation I'd known. She respected my boundaries while offering consistent support. The town's perception shifted gradually. New scandals replaced our family drama in the gossip mill. People who judged me for abandoning my family grew quieter as more truth emerged. Some apologized for their assumptions. Most simply moved on to fresher drama. I returned for Emma's graduation, sitting with Dad and my birth mother while Mom watched from across the auditorium. The careful distance maintained peace while acknowledging our fractured reality. Emma waved to all of us, refusing to choose sides in her moment of celebration. 3 years after the revelation, I accepted an internship at a family counseling center. My supervisor knew my history and saw it as an asset rather than liability. Personal experience with family dysfunction, properly processed through therapy, created more empathetic counselors. Mom's mental health stabilized enough for supervised communication. We exchanged emails through her therapist, carefully worded messages acknowledging the past while exploring potential future connection. Progress came in millimeters, not miles. My college friends knew my story in broad strokes, but not details. I'd learned to share appropriately, neither hiding my past nor letting it define every interaction. The skills learned from surviving emotional manipulation translated into healthy boundary setting. Emma pursued art therapy, inspired by her own healing journey. She created powerful pieces exploring identity, favoritism, and family dysfunction. Her senior exhibition featured a series on twins, each painting showing two figures gradually separating into individual identities. The legal documents from our case became teaching tools in family law classes, anonymized but powerful examples of emotional abuse documentation. The judge who'd handled our case spoke at conferences about the challenges of proving psychological harm in custody disputes. My birth mother remarried when I was 21, asking my permission before introducing her partner into our lives. He understood our complicated history and never tried to assume a parental role. Instead, he became another supportive adult in my expanding network. Dad found peace in accepting his failures while building a better future. He volunteered with organizations supporting adoptive families, sharing his story as a cautionary tale about enabling dysfunction. His honesty helped other passive parents recognize their own patterns. 4 years after that birthday weekend, I graduated with honors. The audience included my birth mother, her family, Dad, Emma, Nathan, and the professors who'd supported me. Mom sent a card through her therapist, acknowledging the achievement she'd once tried to sabotage. I accepted a position at a nonprofit supporting adoption reunification and family counseling. My personal experience informed professional practice, though I maintained careful boundaries between my story and my clients' needs. The work felt like turning poison into medicine. Emma and Mom developed a healthier relationship through years of therapy. Boundaries replaced enmeshment. Honest communication replaced manipulation. Their bond would never be simple, but it became more genuine without me as the scapegoat holding their dysfunction. My apartment filled with photos from both families, biological and chosen. Birthday celebrations included people who'd earned their place through support rather than obligation. The freedom to choose my family felt revolutionary after 18 years of forced dynamics. 5 years after the revelation, Mom requested a meeting through proper channels. Her therapist supported the contact, believing she'd done sufficient work to engage safely. I agreed to meet in a neutral location with support people present. The meeting was awkward, but necessary. Mom looked older, worn by therapy and accountability. She apologized without excuses, acknowledging the harm while explaining the mental illness that drove it. I listened without obligation to forgive or forget. We established limited contact with clear boundaries. Holiday cards, occasional emails through her therapist, gradual steps toward whatever relationship might be possible. The goal wasn't restoration of what never existed, but creation of something new and honest. My work with adoptive families often involved recognizing warning signs I'd lived through. Parents who favored biological children over adopted ones, adoption trauma manifesting as rejection, the complex grief of infertility meeting the reality of parenting. Each case taught me more about my own story. Emma became an art therapist, specializing in adoption and family trauma. We occasionally presented together at conferences, sharing our different perspectives on the same dysfunction. Our professional collaboration healed wounds that personal conversation couldn't reach. The small town that had judged and gossiped gradually forgot our drama. New families moved in, old scandals faded, life continued its rhythm. I visited occasionally, no longer defined by the narrative Mom had created, but by the life I'd built despite it. My birth mother's parents passed away within months of each other, grateful they'd lived to know me. Wow. So Emma's art exhibition with twin figures separating into individuals connects perfectly to their whole journey. Their funeral became a gathering of the family I'd missed for 18 years. Grief mixed with gratitude for the time we'd had, however brief. 6 years after that birthday revelation, I married someone who understood complicated families. Our wedding included carefully orchestrated seating to maintain everyone's boundaries. Mom attended with her therapist's approval, sitting quietly in the back, present but not prominent. Dad walked me down the aisle alongside my birth mother, a visual representation of my complicated but complete family. Emma stood as my best person, our bond stronger for surviving what tried to break it. The ceremony celebrated not just union, but survival. We built our own family traditions, informed by, but not imprisoned by the past. Holidays rotated between households, boundaries respected, drama minimized through careful planning. The work of maintaining peace felt worthwhile for the connections preserved. 7 years after the revelation, I became a parent myself. The pregnancy triggered unexpected emotions about family, belonging, and the weight of intergenerational trauma. Therapy helped process fears about repeating patterns, despite conscious efforts to break them. Mom sent a gift through proper channels, a small blanket she'd knitted during therapy. The gesture felt appropriate, acknowledging the grandchild she'd have limited access to while respecting boundaries. Progress measured in stitches and silence. My child would know their whole family story age appropriately, without secrets or shame. The truth, however complicated, felt less damaging than the lies I'd lived with. Honesty became our foundation, even when it meant difficult conversations. Emma chose not to have children, recognizing her own need to heal before considering parenthood. She poured maternal energy into her art therapy practice, helping other survivors of family dysfunction. Her choice reflected wisdom, not weakness. 8 years after that birthday, our family gathered for Dad's retirement celebration. Mom attended briefly, maintaining appropriate distance while acknowledging the milestone. The careful choreography of broken families had become routine, manageable, if not comfortable. I published articles about adoption trauma and family reunification, sharing professional insights without exploiting personal pain. The boundary between private experience and public education required constant navigation, but felt important to maintain. My birth mother became a grandmother with joy untainted by complicated history. She'd missed my childhood, but embraced this new role fully. Watching her with my child healed something in both of us, a second chance at the bond we'd missed. The adoption agency that had handled our case reformed their policies based on our documentation. Post-adoption support became mandatory. Red flags like requests to return one twin triggered immediate intervention. Our pain contributed to systemic change. 9 years after the revelation, Mom achieved something like peace. Her therapy group, medication compliance, and careful boundary maintenance allowed her to exist in our lives' periphery without causing harm. Recovery wasn't cure, but management. I supervised new social workers, teaching them to recognize the subtle signs of emotional abuse. My story became teaching moments, anonymized but powerful. Each professional I trained might prevent another child from enduring what I had survived. Emma and I wrote a book together about our experiences, donating proceeds to adoption support services. The writing process reopened wounds, but also provided closure. Our different perspectives on the same events fascinated readers and researchers. 10 years after that birthday weekend, I stood in my office looking at degrees, certifications, and photos of the life I'd built. The 18-year-old who'd discovered his adoption truth in a tent had become someone who helped other families navigate similar revelations. Mom sent a final letter on our 28th birthday, acknowledging she'd never be the mother I deserved, but grateful for the limited relationship we'd built. The honesty felt like its own gift, better than any party she'd thrown for Emma. My child asked about their grandmother, the one who lived across town but never visited. I explained mental illness, choices, and consequences in simple terms. They accepted the explanation with childhood pragmatism, more interested in the grandmother who read them stories. The family I'd built through choice rather than chance gathered for ordinary moments that felt extraordinary. Sunday dinners, birthday parties, graduations, and grieving losses together. Love earned through showing up rather than assumed through blood. 15 years after the revelation, I received word that the adoption agency worker who'd saved those illegal documents had passed away. Her courage in preserving evidence had changed our lives. I attended her funeral, thanking her family for her integrity. Mom's health declined, mental illness compounded by age. Emma and I navigated caregiving decisions carefully, balancing duty with self-protection. We arranged appropriate care without sacrificing our own healing to her ongoing needs. My practice expanded to include training for adoption agencies, teaching them to recognize and respond to attachment failures. Each workshop felt like honoring the pain of that unwanted baby boy who'd grown into someone who protected others. Dad passed peacefully in his sleep, having found redemption in his later years through honest acknowledgement of his failure. failures. His funeral brought our fractured family together one last time, grief temporarily bridging carefully maintained distances. 20 years after that birthday revelation, I became a grandfather myself. Watching my child parent their own baby with unconditional love felt like breaking generational curses. The cycle of rejection ended with conscious choices and continuous effort. Mom passed in her sleep at the care facility, her therapist calling with the news. The grief felt complicated, mourning not who she was, but who she might have been without mental illness. Emma and I arranged a small service, honoring the mother she'd been to Emma while acknowledging my different truth. Going through Mom's belongings revealed years of therapy journals documenting her struggle to understand why she couldn't love me. The entries showed genuine anguish over her inability to bond, mental illness creating walls she couldn't climb. Understanding didn't erase harm, but provided context. The house where I'd grown up invisible sold to a young family excited about the big backyard. Watching them move in felt like closing a chapter written in rejection and opening one filled with possibility. Places held memories but didn't define futures. My grandchildren would know their whole family story when age appropriate, the beautiful and broken parts together. Truth told with compassion prevented secrets from festering into shame. They'd understand that families could be complicated and still be loving. Retirement from direct practice allowed me to focus on writing and teaching. The expertise born from trauma had helped hundreds of families navigate adoption challenges. Pain transformed into purpose felt like the best possible outcome. Emma and I, now in our 50s, maintained the bond that had survived everything meant to break it. We laughed about our matching gray hair, compared medications for various age-related ailments, and marveled at the lives we'd built from such a fractured foundation. The small town where we'd grown up had changed beyond recognition. New buildings replaced old landmarks. Different families filled familiar houses. The gossip mill that had once judged me had long since moved on to fresher scandals. I kept one photo from childhood, Emma and me at age 5, her in a princess dress and me in hand-me-downs. The image that once symbolized inequality now reminded me of survival. We'd both escaped the narratives imposed on us. My birth mother, now elderly, lived in assisted living near my home. Daily visits replaced the 18 years of absence. She'd given me life twice, once at birth and again when she'd left that voicemail. Both gifts shaped who I'd become. The adoption agency invited me to speak at their 50th anniversary, acknowledging how our case had changed their practices. I accepted, sharing our story one final time for the professionals who needed to hear it. Change came slowly but persistently. Sitting in my garden now, watching grandchildren play while my chosen family gathers for Sunday dinner, I marvel at the journey from that tent by the lake. The boy who discovered he was unwanted had become a man surrounded by genuine love. The scars remain, thin silver lines marking where rejection cut deep, but scars prove healing happened, that wounds closed, that survival was possible. I carry them without shame, evidence of a battle won through patience, therapy, and the courage to demand truth. My story ends not with dramatic confrontation or perfect reconciliation, but with quiet peace. Some relationships couldn't be repaired, only managed. Some wounds healed crooked but healed nonetheless. Some families broke irreparably, but new ones grew in the spaces between. That 18-year-old boy in the tent, shaking as he listened to his birth mother's voicemail, couldn't have imagined this life. The pain he felt was real, the journey brutal, but the destination worth every difficult step. Truth, however painful, had set him free to build something better. I think of Mom sometimes, hoping wherever consciousness goes after death, she found the peace that eluded her in life. Mental illness had stolen her ability to love me, but it hadn't stolen my ability to build a life worth living. That felt like victory enough. The families we're born into shape us, but don't define us. The families we choose, who choose us back, show us who we really are. I was never the unwanted twin, just a boy born into a situation too complex for simple love. Understanding that set me free. The image of the OP in his garden, surrounded by chosen family, while reflecting on that scared boy in the tent, creates such a powerful circle, showing how far he's come without pretending the journey was easy.